I can't tell if this mustache makes me look like Joe Exotic or a bargain bin Logan Paul. Summer of 2019. iDubbbz posted a video called Full Force that was basically 53 minutes of poverty porn about some dying shithole of a town called Battle Creek. Now, that dying shithole of a town happens to be where I grew up and currently live. I even went to high school with Chris, or as he's more commonly known, Airsoft Fatty. And I couldn't claim to be friends with him. We only talked a handful of times, but I'd see him around, and I was glad to find out that he was somewhat popular on YouTube, and he seems happy. He seems pretty happy. Well, a few days ago, I thought to myself, now I haven't seen an iDubbbz video in quite some time. Since that video, actually. I went to go type iDubbbz in the search bar, and this happened. Now, immediately I got sucked into the iDubbbz is a simp vortex. Now, the only thing I'm going to say about that video is, why do you care? Why does anyone care at all? If you're just desperate to hear what I think about it, you can go ahead and click here to see that. On my journey down the rabbit hole, I ran into this video, and it really smoked my salmon. PewDiePie stole the title of iDubbbz's most popular series to talk about this, but he didn't put in the effort to crib the style of those videos as well. So, this one's for you, iDubbbz, you colossal asshole. This is my crusade against shitty and lazy content on YouTube. Cheers.
Cheers. This is horrible.
Now, a lot of people call PewDiePie the king of YouTube. And, with good reason. He has over 100 million subscribers now. That's 100 million subscribers. And even if half of those are fake, because, a lot of them are bound to be fake, that's still 50 million. There's no city on Earth that's that large. As a result of his popularity, he's come to represent YouTube in popular media, newscasts, on television shows, anything like that that's outside of the YouTube sphere. And I began to wonder, if PewDiePie is the king of YouTube, does he also get titles? Because, there was Daenerys Targaryen, first of her name, breaker of chains, mother of dragons, queen of ice cream. So I decided that I would give some titles to PewDiePie myself. So today, I'm dubbing PewDiePie Worst Username, Ringleader of the Circlejerk, Master of Manipulation, Baron of Boredom, and King of the Parasites. This is Content Crusader. Many moons ago, in the early morning, a man walked into the center of the town square and started furiously beating off. Throughout the day, people would stop and stare at this bizarre and abnormal behavior. And naturally, that night they told their friends, who came the next day to find him still there, beating off. Now, it was a hot day, and pretty soon the crowd was large enough that a businessman with an entrepreneurial spirit brought a cooler full of water bottles and began to sell them for $5 apiece. Watching someone wax their carrot in public is thirsty work, and the water bottles quickly sold out. Ecstatic with the success of his latest business venture, the businessman went home that night and rented a hot dog cart. Luckily, the next day the wanker was still there in the middle of the town square, and the crowds were even larger and even hungrier. He sold out of hot dogs and, in that day, made more money than he ever had in his life. After a while, the sun set, and the crowds began to thin out as people went home to their families, until it was just the businessman and the wanker. The businessman walked up to the wanker and thanked him for his sudden display of exhibitionism, but didn't shake his hand for obvious reasons. The wanker said it was their pleasure, but that they probably wouldn't be back tomorrow. The businessman frowned and asked why, and the wanker pointed out at their crotch. After 3 days of public self-love, the wanker's dick had become chafed and inflamed. The businessman thought for a moment, then walked over to his cart and grabbed a thick stack of small bills and brought them over to the wanker. He said that each day that the wanker came back and spanked his monkey in the town square, he'd give him a cut of the earnings from the hot dog cart. The wanker's eyes went wide, and he nodded and snatched the bills immediately, then left for the night. After that, the pair started making money
hand over dick.
The crowds grew larger each day, and the businessman expanded to selling t-shirts and milkshakes. Then, one fateful day, someone emerged from the crowd, walked up to the wanker, dropped their pants, and joined in on the jerkery. The crowd cheered and applauded, and that day the businessman sold out of dick-shaped Pez dispensers. To keep a good thing going, the businessman offered the new guy a cut of the cash as well. News spread that you could make good money making the bald man cry in the town square. And soon enough, what was once one lone wanker was a full-blown circlejerk. The crowds became so large that they were spilling out of the town square, and the businessman made so much money he started buying out nearby storefronts and setting up shop. But, as weeks passed, people began to tire of watching a huddle of dudes yank their cranks into the middle of a circle, and the crowds began to thin. For the first time, the businessman made less money than he had the day before. Panicked at the thought of his ejaculate empire crashing down around him, he stayed up all night, coming up with ways to keep the gravy train flowing. The following morning, the businessman was waiting in the town square with a sinister grin on his face, and he whispered his plan to each of the wankers as they arrived. Finally, the last penis pumper showed up and went to take his spot amongst his coworkers. But before he'd even finished the first stroke, the businessman came up behind him and kicked him into the center of the circle. Now, the punctual performers, privy to the plan, quickly closed the gap so that there was no escape. The crowd was shocked and delighted. Immediately, they whipped out their phones and started snapping pictures and taking videos of the poor sap defending themselves all day from the spunk. Those videos and pictures were shared tens of thousands of times online. The Circlejerk had gone viral. A year later, the businessman had built a stadium to house the Circlejerk. There was a jumbotron that would show slow-motion instant replays of the juiciest spurts. There were people that made entire careers out of commenting on the Circlejerk, and people that even made careers out of commentating on that commentary. And to satiate the fickle crowd, a new wanker was kicked into the center of the Circlejerk every few weeks. Fans knew the names, faces, and personalities and personal lives of each of the wankers. But quickly, there was one that inexplicably became more popular than all of the rest. So popular, in fact, that his name and face became synonymous with the Circlejerk. That professional masturbator is PewDiePie. Ooh. The amount of videos on YouTube that is just YouTubers talking about other YouTubers is disgusting. I mean, look at all these videos that PewDiePie has put out in just the past few months that reference other YouTubers or celebrities in the thumbnail or the title. And there's no greater circle jerk than Lawai. When you're not creative or motivated enough to make unique and interesting content, just get your fans to make content for you. And all of that content will be about making content for you. Great. Look, PewDiePie is far from the worst offender in this regard. But for all intents and purposes, he is the face of this platform. Now, he never asked to become this famous, and he's under no obligation to make certain content over other content. But isn't it sad that the person with the most subscribers on this platform makes such lazy content? Wouldn't you hope that the person at the top of the food chain would also be the person on the cutting edge? Yeah, right. Look at these titles. Look at these thumbnails. Of the past 70 videos that PewDiePie has uploaded, 21% reference another YouTuber or celebrity in the thumbnail or title. 30% have a word that's unrelated or unimportant to the video in parentheses in the title. 53% have a question mark, exclamation point, or ellipses in the title. And 60% have a word that's in all caps. Wow. How is this anything but cancerous? How could you call this anything but cancerous? And you know, nearly all of it is stretched out past the 10-minute mark for no good reason. It's clickbait, plain and simple. It's no better than those tabloid magazines that shout at you while you're waiting in the checkout line at Myers. I'd like to bring your attention to this video. Now, from what I can tell, this is the third installment in a series of videos where PewDiePie just plays a video by these Jubilee people, watches it, and pauses every once in a while to talk about it. That's it. Now who does that remind you of? But you know what? Those reaction channels like Jinx, they do a better job of it than PewDiePie does. They've got bigger reactions. They speak more frequently. When PewDiePie does it, he's just down in the bottom right corner of the screen, just dead-faced and expressionless, staring off into space, while someone else's far more interesting content is playing in the other 7/8 of the screen. Do you remember when people used to actually make content for YouTube? There was this whole era from the late '80s to the early 20s where the content that got popular on YouTube was original, high effort, and didn't waste your fucking time. Those were the days when comedy sketch channels like Smosh and Nigahiga were king. And even the things that were terrible, like Fred or Annoying Orange, were still original and self-contained. Those were also the days when animators like Egoraptor, OniNG, and Psychic Pebbles could upload high-effort short-form content less frequently and still make a living. Now, none of those people animate anymore. Or at least, not often. They all do Let's Plays or streams. They just can't hack it as animators. There's no money in it.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes wild.
And don't get me wrong, there are still some incredible creators out there making high-quality short-form content. Some of my favorites are Felix Colgrave, Gus Johnson, and Max Gilardi. Gilardi. Who the fuck cares? The point is, even these people need some sort of side hustle, like a podcast, a Patreon, depression. PewDiePie doesn't make original content. What PewDiePie does, what he has always done, is take someone else's better content, slap his face and voice on it, and then throw it up online. There isn't even that much effort put into the editing. The one place that he has the most opportunity to be creative and put in effort. A couple of zooms for emphasis, maybe a sound effect here and there. That's it. Let's Plays, reaction videos, even his particularly beloved stuff, like meme reviews or Lawai, which is ripped off wholesale from Jack's films, by the way, rely on other people's content, could not exist without other people's content. But you know what the worst part is? I get it. I understand why he does this. He uploads an average of 21 minutes of content every single day. The average American only has 5 hours of free time each day. If you watch all of PewDiePie's videos, that's 7% of your free time gone. It would be impossible to make original content that quickly, but that's what YouTube demands from creators. PewDiePie is just a symptom of a larger problem. YouTube doesn't want to foster an ecosystem of creativity. It wants to amass a horde of parasites ready to drain your life force to show you as many advertisements as possible. And if YouTube is a nest of parasites, PewDiePie, worst username, ringleader of the Circlejerk, master of manipulation, baron of boredom, is its king.
No.